I watched the Knuckles spin-off series on Paramount Plus the other night and was shocked that I ended up binging the whole thing and just having a great time with it. I didn't even know this existed, but I've been enjoying the shit out of the Sonic movies. So I was like, yeah, I'll put it on. And it was a lot of fun to me. The main focus of the story is after Sonic 2, Knuckles is trying to figure out kind of where home is for him and what his purpose is now that he's in a peaceful place. And the other main character is Wade Whipple, who I thought was super annoying. Even the first episode of this show, he was getting on my nerves. But as you get more time with him, he really grows on you. And he has a lot of nice, serious moments too. Obviously not too serious given the tone of Sonic, the movies, and this show. And obviously, as far as world building and logic and all that stuff, it's about the same as the Sonic movies. They really have to nerf him for him to have fights with humans because of how fast they are. They can't have them killing anybody, so he punches a guy through a house and he's just kind of woozy. All the same kind of issues the movies have, but I don't particularly give a shit with this series. They obviously couldn't afford James Marsden. The main wife, Maddie, only makes a small appearance in the first scene. Sonic and Tails only show up in the first scene. So it's Knuckles' show for sure. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's some masterclass of cinema or it's going to change your life, but I think it's a perfect show that you can just put on and kind of chill and watch, kid or adult. Knuckles' dry humor really cracked me up the entire season. Idris Elba's delivery is great. You do get some pretty solid cameos. Kid Cutie is a side character. Elliot Taylor, who plays the kind of crazy friend of the blonde chick in Ted Lasso, is one of the villains. The Hound from Game of Thrones is a villain. Carrie Elwes makes an appearance for the last couple episodes. Rob Heibel, who plays Holly's boyfriend in The Office that's not Michael Scott, he's in a ton of shit. You definitely seen him. He's in it. The guy that plays Andre in The League is in it. So it's got a good little cast around it. But the main crux of the story is that Wade wants to go to a bowling tournament in Reno to try to reunite with his father who abandoned him. And Knuckles is having people attack him to try to steal his power. And these are people who formerly worked for Gun, which is like the main bad guy group in the Sonic series. And people always talk about being hard on kids shows and whatever. One of the things that I always criticize is when they butcher the moral values of a kids show. And that's something that this one just gets right, which is unbelievable that Snow White can fuck this up, but Knuckles, the Sonic spinoff, essentially nails it. I mean, obviously, right away you know what Knuckles' arc is going to be. He has nowhere that he feels like he can call home. He's destined as a warrior, but he doesn't really have anything to do as a warrior, so he just trains for nothing. And by the end, he learns that his powers and his strength as a warrior should be used to fight for his family and friends, and that the place where they are is where he can call home. Super simple message, but very positive and very good overall, especially for children, who's presumably the target demographic. Wade's is much more about his insecurity due to his dad leaving him and how it's kind of bled into his entire life and destroyed his confidence. It's sort of implied that that's why he ended up as a local cop at the smallest, safest city in the country. And I think his arc is really interesting because it starts off with him getting trash talked by a little girl and kicked off his bowling team, which is what he needs to get to Reno to try to meet his dad. And you meet his family along the way when him and Knuckles go to hide out at his mom's place. So you meet his mom and sister. And you get to really see that he was just kind of treated like shit by everybody. And that's kind of how you end up with him in the movies, where he's always kind of bragging about what he's done and overcompensating while being an obvious loser. So he's got a really nice arc as well, where you get to see him be pretty down a lot. I mean, it doesn't go crazy dark or sad. It's still kind of goofy, or they break it up with some dry humor or even goofy humor. But in the end, you know, he wants to trust his dad who abandoned him. And the reason that he wants to bowl in this tournament is to beat his dad, who's known as Pistol Pete in the bowling world. And he teams up with the little girl again after defeating the guy in a duel who kicked him off the bowling team, finally learning how to defend himself instead of relying on Knuckles. And then he really comes through in the clutch and actually does beat his dad in the tournament. And when Knuckles is taken down for a minute by the Hound, he steps in and saves him. So he obviously demonstrates and learns the lessons of persistence and valuing the family that he already has more. They make it a point to talk about how he hasn't been home in a long time and how no one ever stays at their family's house with the mom for Shabbat. They all storm off. Also, she calls him Knuckles, like in a very Jewish way. A whole episode. It fucking cracked me up. Nothing crazy, nothing complicated, just good, basic emotional character arcs where they learn a simple but valuable lesson that's good to teach kids, which used to be standard. A lot of Disney movies tell about the lessons of greed and lust for power and all those sorts of things. And now they're just doing all kinds of nonsense. And it's kind of crazy in this episode where they have dinner with his mom and sister. Obviously, each episode has a fight of some kind. They do like a pretty long one shot, and it's not crazy impressive choreography or anything, but it is just interesting that they put that much effort into a random fight with their like 60-year-old mom in the kitchen. Meanwhile, I'm watching the Daredevil fights be edited to hell so much I can't even see what's happening. And like I said, it's not masterclass cinema, and it really leans into all the sort of tropey stuff that it likes. So all the music is 80s and 90s. The theme song is Warrior by Scandal. A lot of the humor might work more for kids. There's quite a bit of it that I find to be my least favorite brand of humor, where we watch something happen and then Wade says it out loud because it's like so absurd and woo. And the show has a wild episode 4 where there's a weird musical in the middle of it. And I actually just made a video about Devil May Cry and how it just felt cynical and ironic and like it just wanted to exploit the brand. Sonic feels like they care about it. And I know they want to make money and that's the goal. But if the way that they can do it is to try to please the fans, which began before the first movie even came out, I would watch that every day over something like Devil May Cry, where it feels like they just want to use the brand to push an ideology. And you know, when you commit like that and you just lean all the way into being goofy and fun, you're not always going to hit, but it at least makes it enjoyable to watch, even if you're not laughing. It's just pleasant and just a nice mood to be in. And the last thing that I'll say to wrap this up, because I'm not going to ramble on forever about this type of show, is that just some fundamental things in storytelling. It does so much more soundly than a lot of these big budget productions that we're getting. And one of these things, besides the character arcs that I already mentioned, is the setup of the villain to make them scary. The Hound has not a ton of screen time, but when Kid Cutie and Ellie Taylor fuck up and have to go tell him that they screwed up, she's like freaking out. And she's like, this is not something that you come back from. If we go back to him empty-handed, we're dead. And it's just crazy to me that the fucking Knuckles villain is set up off screen to be more intimidating than someone like Kingpin in Daredevil Born Again, where you have to watch Kingpin get cucked by his wife, who he sacrificed his life for. Now she's better at the business than he is. Everyone around him has to tell him what he's allowed to do because he doesn't know how to do his job. The therapist lets her go into detail about the dude she was banging. And meanwhile, the Hound, who doesn't even have a fucking name, has people on screen almost crying because they don't want to go back to him without Knuckles in tow. And they're begging for their life and saying they'll do anything for another chance. And he did something I'm so glad that the show did. And it could be just because it's limited to a kid's audience. But I hate when a villain has a subordinate fuck up and it's not their fault and they just kill them as punishment. Yeah, that's great. People would definitely follow a person like that. And what the Hound actually does in this show is say, okay, I'll give you another chance, but now there's no pay. Your second chance is to earn your life. Like, it's a simple but really effective move. Like, yeah, I won't kill you, but you're not getting paid now. And you probably didn't notice in that last freeze frame that I had, but it was the same shot in the first episode as the last one. Not a huge deal, just basic storytelling on screen. The first time he choked to a little girl, the second time he overcame it and beat his dad. Now he's the one going to help Knuckles and use the power gloves to throw bowling balls at the Hound and help save the day. And you get your big payoff of Knuckles saying, this is my home and my family. And now he has something to fight for. Just so basic, but effective. And I would take this over 90% of the shit we're getting now. And all the performances are super fun. Obviously, the guy playing Wade has a ton of fun. Idris Elba seems like he's really enjoying just being a voice actor for Knuckles. His delivery is hilarious. Even the side villains all just seem like they're having a great time. I'm gonna leave it there for this one. I talked way more than I expected to about Knuckles. And it's nice to be positive about something. And I see all the little twats in my comments saying I'm always negative. So after I watch episode 3 of Mobland, maybe I'll put out a video for that shit too. Because episode 1 and 2 were really good. So if it keeps being good, I'm definitely going to recommend that one. Anyway, if you're looking for something chill just to watch in one night, 6 episodes, half hour each, I think great for any age, check out Knuckles. It's on Paramount Plus. I'm sure it's also on the high seas. If you've seen it, let me know what you think. Try to respond to comments that aren't just insults. Like and subscribe and all that shit. Thanks. See ya.